Amazing. Welcome to everyone in the room, and apologies for the sort of setup chat before we sort of started going. It's just all part of this virtual world. We try and take every minute we can to set everything up. So welcome to the session. My name's Thesis. I'm the GM for Student Engagement at GSA, and I'm here to introduce this week's GradChat on library services for graduate students. So Wednesdays are definitely dedicated to any of the academic support that we can provide our postgraduate students, and work in partnership with some of the great people just like Jennifer and Ashley here on the call today. So before I start, I'd like to acknowledge that the land of the Occult Willang clan, or the Boonwurrung, where I'm currently hosting from today, that's in St Kilda. So I pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging, and recognise the strength, resilience, and the capacity of Torres Strait Islanders and Aboriginal people in this land. So a big warm welcome to Ashley and Jennifer from, I guess, Scholarly Services is the overarching brand. But just before we kick off, I'd like to say that Jennifer Warburton is the Manager of Research Services at Department of Student and Scholarly Services, and joined with us also is Ashley Sutherland, who is the Arts and Humanitarians Library at Library Services. So welcome to the session, and looking forward to all the fantastic resources that are available from the library services that some students probably were not aware of, or were unsure of how to access. So looking forward to the session.
That's great. We're thrilled to be here, and I love seeing that picture behind you, Tabita.
Yes.
The students assembled. I used to have an office years ago. I was the librarian embedded in that School of Graduate Research, and had an office in that awesome building. So I miss the campus so much.
Oh, definitely. We'll get there sooner or later.
Yes, and so Ashley, I'd like to, we're going to do a bit of a tag team today.
Sure.
Ashley, are you going to share your slides?
I will share my screen. I will just change over. Hi, everybody. So just give me a sec and I will switch that around. There we go. And hopefully you can see my screen now. Just give me a go ahead. Sometimes my internet's a bit laggy. I will just let you know that.
It's taking its time. Oh, great. Oh. Excellent. So we'll move to the first slide. Next one.
Like I said, it's a little bit laggy.
That's all right. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're all, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, so welcome everybody. We're obviously working from home, and the library has been delivering virtual services for the last 5 years, and business as usual as much as it possibly can be. And so what Ashley and I have prepared today is some slides. We're going to just go through them and give you lots of opportunity to ask us questions, and as we go, or at the end, save them up if you want to. I guess the real takeaway that we'd love you to have today is that Scholarly Services, also known as the library, the academic library, we're here to help you. So, we've got a lot of online materials. I think 96% of our journals are actually online. We've got ebooks. We've got the publishers have expanded their offerings. And if we haven't got what you want, we'll do our darndest to get it for you. So you've probably heard of interlibrary loans. Nothing has changed in terms of journals for that. Physical books, it's a little harder, but we'll do our best to try and get what you need. And so when we send out these slides, there'll be links in the slides to forms where you can actually request. If you're having trouble finding what it is that you really want, the librarians will try and find what they need for you. So just in case you didn't know, each school and faculty has a faculty librarian. Ashley is from the Baillieu. She's the Arts and Humanities librarian, and she has a number of liaison librarians that work in her team. So your request will go to your faculty librarians to assist you there. So at the moment we've got, if you've got things out on loan like I do, just before we decamped, I took home a big armful of books.
Me too.
Quite happy because they keep getting renewed. So no items that are currently on loan will become overdue during that period. So don't panic if you're thinking you've got overdue books, but you won't have. Could we have the next slide, Ashley, please?
I did it. It's just being slow.
It's taking its sweet time. So this next slide coming up is about helping you find resources. And we just wanted to point out on the busy library homepage where you actually look for the bits and pieces. So to source resources, you can see highlighted on that left-hand column, probably not that clear on the screen, but there's a link that says source online and print materials. So we can talk a little bit more about the print materials later, but as we said, you know, like if you're stuck, you know, you click on that link and it'll actually take you to, you know, information, things that you need to know, and also, you know, to fill in if you need to actually track stuff down. So next slide, please, Ashley. Next one is about online catalogues and databases. And if you've been using the library catalogue to find things, you may have noticed that it's the current default is for looking for online materials to try and, you know, expedite things for you. Well, it is taking its time, Ashley.
Oh dear. Okay, it's sitting there correctly for me, but what I could always do is, I don't know really, get out and push perhaps.
It's now. Good.
Okay.
Okay, so the point I was just going to make was that the library catalogue search is currently defaulting to online collections. But you can change that. You can go and change it to search the entire collection if you're looking for particularly for physical books. So up in the top banner of the screen, we've got the discovery search box, and that's, you know, operating as usual. And we've also got the A to Z journals and databases list. So that's in that middle column online. Yeah, so, you know, sourcing materials for your research topics through the collections. There's a number of different gateways through there. So we'll go to the next slide, Ashley. So I don't know if you know, but the library does have a very big materials vote. We have very rich and amazing collections at Melbourne. And to make it easier, our talented librarians have put together some curated collections of resources under the heading of library guides. So if you go to the library guides link on the library homepage, there's a getting started set of basic guides. There's also some discipline specific ones by subject area. So for example, if you're in arts and humanities, you can sort of delve right down into sort of history. You know, I think there's even Australian history, so you can go down a few different levels. There's also some advanced guides for researchers. So they're topics like systematic reviews or literature reviews. So everyone has to do a lit review. If you're doing a research project, if you want some basic information about that, that's a really great place to start. Other topics like scholarly publishing as well. So they're the library guides. Now I'm going to hand over to Ashley now, who's going to talk about the search tools in more detail.
Okay, thanks, Jennifer. So hopefully that slide has advanced, and I apologise for my internet connection, but we're actually doing better than we were the other day because, you know, that storm that we all had last week, that completely took out my modem because we had a power surge. So this is the new modem.
Oh, wow.
So I'm happy that we've got internet. So, you know. All right, so search tools. There's a couple of things that I wanted to show you just to make sure that people are aware of, because there's nothing more annoying than sort of hitting a paywall somewhere. You know, maybe one of your colleagues sends you a link to a really interesting article, or your supervisor says, hey, you should read this, and you open it up and then you hit a paywall, and that's super, super annoying. But the main thing is to remember that it's highly likely that we've got a subscription to, because we have subscriptions to so many things. So one of the search tools I wanted to point out was a thing called Lean Library. And I'm not sure if anybody's used that yet. Stick something in the chat if you've used Lean Library. I'll just give you a sec. Has anybody tried it out? Not so far. Okay, so I'll give you a bit of a demo. So say I just go over to the Nature homepage here. Now I'm not logged in at all. Now you can access all of our journals by going through our library systems and logging in that way. But if you're actually just on the web and you decide that you really need to read a particular article, so say let's just pick one at random here. Let's have a look at this one here. I'll just tell it I'll accept the cookies. So there's a couple of things that you can do. Now, if this wasn't Yeah, there it is. Whoops, popping up. Come back, Lean Library. All right, so can you see this little thing that's popped up in my browser here? So Lean Library is a little extension that will take you to log in to our subscriptions. So this is a really useful thing to unlock articles. And so I can download the PDF version of this article now. It's just having a minute. Don't know why it's wanting me to do that again. We'll just ignore that. The other really useful thing that it also does is that if you are in our catalogue, for instance, and you're looking at a print book, Lean Library can tell you if we've got an ebook version of the same thing. This also works, for instance, if you're in Trove. So say you're looking something up in Trove. If it finds out that we've got an ebook, it will pop up and ask you to go and have a look at our ebook. So it's a very useful tool. So basically, it's just a browser extension, which you can get from the library homepage. Let me just go back home here. So under search tools, and then Lean Library over here. So I would advise you all to download that because it is very, very useful. Works with all the major browsers, and it will save you an awful lot of time. The other thing I was going to suggest with searching is to make sure that you've set up your Google Scholar preferences as well, especially now that we're all working from home. So when we eventually get back to campus, if you're on the uni Wi-Fi, Google Scholar will automatically recognize that you're from the university and it will show you what we're calling library links. If you're at home and you're finding that there's a lot of things you just can't access, it could be because it hasn't recognized our university subscription. So the way you set them up is you go into this little incognito hamburger menu in the corner here, and don't go to My Library because that's not it. You go down to Settings, and you'll see a little menu with library links here. And what this allows you to do is to choose libraries that you have memberships for. And you can see here I've already set up University of Melbourne Library. But say I was from Sydney Uni, you can just search for it. University of Sydney, there we go. And I could add that along. And if I had access to that, it would show the links for that one. So do check that you do have it, because it means then when you go in, hang on, I shouldn't talk and type at the same time. What it means is that when you get a result list coming up, you'll find these Find It at Melbourne links. So hopefully you can see that on my screen there. And the other thing is Lean Library was trying to get involved in the Act there as well. So it will also try and reconfigure your settings for you to help you out. So you want to be seeing these Find It at Uni Melb links, because it means you can go straight from there into our subscriptions without having to worry about paywalls, etc. So I hope that is useful for you. Now, the other thing I was going to show you as well in terms of searching was also another really good tip is to make sure that you've set up alerts in databases or journals that you use frequently. So I'm not sure if people, just stick something in the chat if you've done that before. Hang on, we've got some questions here. Oh, chat disabled, right. Lean Library, Emily likes it, Julia likes it. Excellent.
I just say, Lean, like, what a find. I had seriously had no clue that that was even possible to do.
Oh.
Lean Library plus change it to Google Scholar. Wow.
Yeah. It's a very good tool. Actually, I saw a colleague this morning who had put it in a Canvas subject as labeled as the magic button. And it kind of is that. It's pretty cool. I'm a fan.
There was a question that did come up in the Q&A and I accidentally cancelled it.
Oh, whoops. Okay, what was it?
From Megumi, and it was about, are there any resources on how to write a thesis?
Oh, yes, there are.
There are lots of books. So in chat, I wasn't able to actually answer Megumi's in that Q&A, so I put it into chat that there's a book called, there's many books, and if you just do a keyword search on writing theses or thesis.
Yep, I can do one right now for you.
A favourite is How to Write a Better Thesis, which is actually written by our Pro-Vice Chancellor, Justin Zobel, and it's an ebook, so that comes up quite well.
Yeah, there's lots and lots and lots of them. And so, yeah, I would second Jennifer's recommendation there as well. So if you just look at a couple of keywords like thesis writing and similar, you will find all sorts of things. So at the moment, again, this is coming up with our online resources first, which is really useful in the current environment. So yeah, just jump into our library catalogue and do a keyword search, and you will find heaps and heaps and heaps, because we do have a lot in that area. Okay, now what I was doing though was going to quickly jump into Scopus, and I'm just going to demo how to set up an alert, because it could be that you've got a particular search that works really well for you. Let me just log into Scopus. And you want to be keeping up with things that are published as they come through. All right, now I'm not sure why you're doing that for me. Sorry, just this is misbehaving. University of Melbourne, sign in via my institution. Here we go. Talk amongst yourselves while it logs in. Okay, and here's a search I prepared earlier. All right, so what I can do is quickly go run this search here. And say I keep getting really good stuff with this particular combination of keywords, and at the moment this is something I'm quite interested in. I'm following a lot of COVID misinformation at the moment in various sources. If I want to keep myself up to date, one thing I can do is set an alert. So over here in Scopus there's this little set alert, and what it allows me to do is it will show me the search that I've had, and I can edit that if I want to. I can give this alert a name, which I might just call COVID misinformation at the moment. The email address I want to send it to. Do I want to get one every week? Or I could do every day, every month, whatever I think is most useful for me. And I shouldn't have clicked OK yet, sorry, because I was still demoing. You can choose your days, etc. And what that'll do is that every time something new comes into the database that meets your criteria, it will send you an email at whatever frequency you've decided. And it just helps you to keep up with the latest that's being published on that. Now, pretty much all of our databases will have a function that lets you do it. It will just be in a slightly different spot. So what you're looking for is to set an alert. The other thing you can do is, for instance, I was on Nature just before. Just let me go back there. If you've got a particular journal that you use frequently, you can do the same thing. So again, you just go to the homepage for that particular journal, and you might have to do a bit of hunting. When we're looking at Nature, you just go into Explore Content, and at the bottom there, you've got Sign Up for Alerts. And again, this gives you the same sort of options where, sadly, this one doesn't tell you how, you don't get to control how frequently you're going to get them. But that's a really good idea as well. So think about the sort of resources you're using and really set them up so that you can, you know, be updated as you go. The other thing that could be useful too is that if you're using news sources, all of our news databases allow you to do this as well. So that can be a really useful one too.
Sorry, actually, I had a question about that. News articles. So is there a way for students, because I know that on the call, I think we checked before, about 50-50 research versus coursework in the room. So is there, for students, if they're trying to get up newspaper articles or read the newspaper, what is it? Is it access to the library, or what's the best way in that sense?
Yeah, and we get a lot of questions about newspapers, and we have subscriptions to an enormous amount. So that's a really great segue, by the way, because the next thing I was going to talk about was online primary sources and including news. So why don't we start with news? So on this slide, I do have a link to our library guide for news and newspapers, which I'll just go into. Hopefully you can see that there. And this guide has recently been updated, and what we've tried to do is make it really easy for you to find the types of resources we've got. So you can go in there and, you know, if you're just wanting to look at today's news, we've got a couple of quick links to some of the key ones. Some info about setting up an RSS feed from news sources as well. Different sections for if you're wanting to look for Australian and New Zealand news. All of these links will take you to our subscription, so you can get full text content from here. So we've tried to outline the different coverage. So for instance, in Factiva, which is one of the biggest news databases that we have, you know, that covers a lot of our main Australian papers as well. But there's a whole lot of different sources that you can go into. And we've also gone through and tried to identify lots of overseas ones as well. So there's a huge amount of information in here. And these cover not just current newspapers, but also historical ones as well. So if your research involves you looking at historical sources, you want to have a look at this newspaper guide because it'll show you where to go about finding things.
Yeah.
So
but even just for your, yeah, sorry.
That's okay, Jennifer, go.
Or even just for your own interest, if you want to read a facsimile copy of today's Age, you know, you can just grab it from the link. I think there's also a quick link on the library homepage, which is current newspapers.
There is too, yeah.
And you can get into Sydney Morning Herald and the Age.
Fantastic.
I don't think we don't have the Sun anymore, do we?
That was a brief thing through Chancellery that kind of died a death, I think, during COVID. The only thing I was going to say is that some of these, like the website ones, you've got to actually, if you're off campus, you need to log in through the VPN because it needs to recognise you as a Melbourne Uni person that way, like through your IP address. There's instructions in the when you go to log into it anyway. But yeah, we do have a mixture of like website access to current, but also the facsimile editions of the current ones in the databases. The other thing, now you'll get these slides which will have our listing. There is also an A to Z listing of all of our news sources, which you can go through and have a browse through if you like. You can also sort of limit them. So if you're looking at, say, you know, news sources that have 17th century content, there's a couple of them, for instance, or you can go, you know, 20th century content, whatever you want to filter to. All right, the other thing too is that we have a lot of online primary source databases which will cover things such as your government documents, historical manuscripts from different places, correspondence, ephemera, things like pamphlets, playbills, all sorts of stuff. And increasingly we're getting a lot more primary source databases that include things like images and audio, video files, oral history type things. So there's a large amount of stuff available that way. And so again, there's an A to Z listing that I've put a link to, which you can go and explore, but also the library guides for particular discipline areas. For instance, like the history guide has got a link through so that you can go and have a look at all the primary sources. So I would definitely investigate primary sources if that's part of your research. Just have a look at what's there because it's quite extraordinary what you can find. Actually, and pro tip, if people are interested in piracy and the history of piracy, there's an awful lot in there. I discovered this with a third year subject I was helping.
Yeah, there's a couple of questions about the VPN. Did you see that one? Yes.
Okay. VPN. Hang on. Let me just go into the
I just put a link in there to that question about cool. VPN. So there's the UniMel website talks about what the VPN is and where you're based, whether you're off in a different country or here. There's some tips to getting a VPN. So I answered that because even with our students, a VPN is always a question about it. So essentially a VPN masks your IP address or where you are to say that you are from the university and are from a safe known location. And so you're able to access a lot more services if you're on the VPN. So it just depends, especially. So when we're talking about VPN, it means that it recognizes that you're a part of the university community and that you can access some of these resources. Sorry, I had to jump in there, Ashley.
No, that's great. Like it. That's a really good explanation. All right, there's another question. How do you remove the alert in Scopus? And this is a great question, and I'm not quite sure, but this is my guess. Let's have a look. So in Scopus, I just went into my account here, and it does have alerts, which should bring up, there we go. So we can see the one that I just made. And I'm going to guess that if we delete it, there it is. You can just delete it, or you can edit it, or you can make it inactive. So there you go. That was just in my account. And look, if you do get stuck with any of this sort of thing, just get in touch with us in the library and we'll try and help you out. All right, any other questions on any of that before we mosey along? Oh, there's another question. Systematic reviews. Okay, so thanks for that question, Cindy. That's a really good one. So systematic reviews, we get a lot of questions about. And the good news is we have a lot of information available. So if I just go back to our library homepage, what I'm going to show you is a good place to start. If we go into our library guides that Jennifer mentioned before, and we go into the ones for advanced researchers over here, we have a really good one in the full list on systematic reviews. There it is down there. And this takes you through all of the different types of flavors of systematic reviews, because there are so many of them. How to go about setting up your research question, etc. You know, keeping up with your results, all of that sort of thing. So the first thing I would do is get you to have a look at this. I might just stick, can participants see the chat?
They can, yes.
They can. All right. So let me just put, I'll just stick that in. Here's the link in the chat window. So I would have a look at that first. And then the other thing I would do too, there's two other things I'm going to say to do. One is to have a look at these Cochrane interactive learning modules. So this is like an online course that we've purchased through Cochrane collaboration. And they take you through in great detail how to really set up your review. If you want to have some specific advice on your topic, we do have a research consultation service, which I think Jennifer's going to tell you more about in a minute, or maybe I am. Maybe we're segueing, we are. And what you can do with the research consultation is you can book an individual appointment with one of our specialist research librarians, and they can do things, you know, like helping you work with keywords, helping you to sort of work out which databases are going to be the best ones for you to be looking at, things about how to manage the results that you get, etc. So all sorts of that help is available. And certainly the team in the Brownless Biomedical Library, they are really on top of systematic reviews because it's such a big part of people's methodology. And they can give you a lot of really good advice on that. So what I would do is start with looking through the guide and have a go at the Cochrane modules, see if that helps you to feel a little bit more confident. And you can also then, if you need to, after that, follow up with an appointment. All right, now we've got another question. Best ways to get in touch with us. Okay, so at the end, we'll make sure that we give you all of the contacts. But you can, if you want to get in touch with the librarian, you can jump on Library Chat, which is just on the library homepage. But I'll also give you a link to how to find your liaison librarians for your particular area, and we'll show you how to book a research consultation as well. Now we've also got one from Julia who says, I'm doing a systematic review. When it came to finding the full text article for review, I used EndNote to automatically find them. Yeah, now what I would probably advise there, if you're using EndNote to actually find the full text articles, I'd probably say don't do that because EndNote is not 100%. Those find full text features in EndNote are not 100% reliable for a number of very boring technical reasons, which I won't go into. We've also just changed our authentication system as well, which is also very boringly technical, but has the rather alarming result in that you have to change some EndNote settings sometimes to get that to work properly. So what I'd be doing is, trying to find, you might need to just face up to having to download some of those other articles that it doesn't find. I just wouldn't rely on EndNote. See, the way that the full text functions work is that it uses a system called Crossref to go and look at, what it looks for is some embedded metadata in the files. And if the publishers haven't put metadata embedded properly, it's just not, it's kind of invisible to those sort of searches. So that does happen. And there's a whole lot of other technical things that can stop it from working. So yeah. I think the way I view it is anything that EndNote or other similar programs find is a bonus, but really you might need to face up to having to go and download some of that stuff.
I think in Julie's case, go to PubMed or one of the big databases and do a search. I mean, if you want to limit to full text only, you could tick a box on that. Although again, I wouldn't do that because you know, there's always going to be links out to the full text, and then download those records and get them into EndNote that way. Yeah.
Okay, now next question actually leads me to the next bit of our, I'll just go research consultation. So this is a really good one. So Helen wants to know, how do you make one of those appointments, a research consultation? So again, brilliant segueing. On our library homepage, there's a link under researchers for booking a research consultation, which just takes you through to a form. And you can fill in the details. And at the moment, given that we're not all on campus, we can either make a Zoom meeting with you, or we can talk to you over the phone. And we're also, you know, happy to email if that's easier for you too. And then we'll, you know, take it from there. So when that goes through, our librarians will see your request, and then someone will get in touch with you. So hopefully that answers that one. Sorry, Jennifer, we've got another question.
Class service.
Yes, it is very much the gold class service. Yes, that's it's specifically for researchers. So, you know, if you're doing any big research project, pretty much, you can come and talk to us and ask us lots of questions. And we love hard questions. All right, now there's a question from Anonymous. Hello, Anonymous. Is there a way you could focus on a particular time period in history and get materials from that time period? That's a really great question, and there's a couple of ways you could approach that. So one thing you could do, depending on which kind of area you're looking at, you could narrow down like a particular database. Like if you're looking for primary sources, for instance, you could go into one of our big primary source databases like Gale, and that does allow you to go and filter by different dates as well. So you could find primary sources that were from specific times. You can filter all of our databases to when things are published as well, if you're looking for things published in particular periods. So there's a couple of things. I think we'd need to know a little bit more about what you're actually looking for there, Anonymous. So that's the sort of question where it would be good to just drop a line to one of your liaison librarians, or put in a research consultation request, and then we could sort of look into it in more detail. Because yeah, with that one, I'd need to ask you lots of questions so that we worked out exactly what it was you're trying to get to. But yes, you can, there are ways of doing it. We just need to find out a bit more about that before we, you know, give you some answers. Okay, love all the questions coming in. All right, I might hand over to Jennifer now, because I think I've explained research consultations, etc. So I'm going to move on. And Jennifer's going to talk to you a bit about some of the training that you can sign up with.
That's right. So we are still business as usual, except that all of our training obviously is delivered online. So we have a series of webinars, and we cover a number of topics, and towards the end of the year we'll be covering open access, file management, publishing, data visualization, and so on. Next session coming up, I think, is actually on Thursday the 17th. If you're brand new to the university, getting started with library research is a good hour and a half, 90 minutes of, you know, time well spent learning all these tips and tricks from the from the librarians. But if you go to the library home site, you can come under researchers or under students, and there are two links that go to the same place, which is workshops and tours. And once you get to that particular page, there are two tabs. There's the training and other events, which is the webinar series, but then there's also some online resources. So I'd like to recommend to you, if you haven't done Managing Data at Melbourne, that's a really great course that covers data management for your research project. Particularly if you're doing a PhD, there is an obligation for you to store your data securely for the project whilst at the university, and to leave the data at the university when you move on. So it's a great little program. I think it's four or five short modules with some sort of interactive bits to it as well. But yeah, there's a nice selection. You'll also find on the training site a link to Researcher Connect, which was a big program that we ran in June and July. And I don't know if any of you attended that, but we had 55 sessions that many of them were recorded. And so we actually did a session on systematic review. So there's a recording of that session. There's recordings on RefMan Slam, which was comparing the 3 ref management tools, which I thought was a really good one. Anyway, a wealth of material. So if you're looking for any upskilling, or you've got a bit of a quiet day and you wanted to sit back and look at some recordings, you might want to go to that site. Next slide, please, Ashley.
I did it. It's just slow.
Through a number of different channels. So if any of you are PhD Masters Research, you may be aware of the GradSpace calendar in the LMS in Canvas. So we put them into the calendar there. We also put them onto GradHub. We put them into My Research Career, which is the researcher development portal. We also put them into My Uni Melbourne portal as well. So we push them out in many ways. So you may hear about us. The other 2 things that we just mentioned is that the library runs 2 blogs, and one blog that's been very successful and very popular is 23 Research Things. And it's a series of 23 articles on research topics. So communication skills, they escape me. I'm just going to quickly jump to my little list here. What are some of the topics we covered? File management, data management, advanced literature searching, survey tools, text mining, APIs for research, sharing your thesis, managing your online visibility. So some really great topics, and I think Ashley's just put the link into the chat. Thanks, Ashley.
No problem.
Great to have a tag team here. And the other blog that I'd recommend is the Researcher at Library blog, which that's a weekly blog post that goes out. Again, topics of interest to graduate students and researchers doing research at Melbourne Uni. So you can subscribe to that and get those articles pushed to you on a weekly basis if you're interested. Now we're talking about tools and software for research. So the wonderful Student IT, which is part of the library, run a great homepage which lists all of the software and tools for research available from their particular site. They also have a wonderful chat service as well. So they're working from home but delivering the chat. So if you've got any technical issues with your own computers, you can ring them up or contact them via the chat and actually have a chat about, connecting to the VPN or connecting to, other university systems. So don't forget about that. That's a great one. And as Ashley mentioned before, these people also have access to the library search tools like Len Library as well. So it's a bit of a run through. Ashley, did you want to go on to ref management?
Yes, I do. Okay, so reference management. Maybe just in the Q&A, just if everyone can write down whether you're using a reference manager or which one you like, all of those sorts of things. If you're not using a reference management program, I would be suggesting that you do investigate this because again, it's one of those things that will save you an awful lot of time and generally make your life a lot easier. So in terms of reference management support, we've got a number of things. So one is Recite, which is our citation guide to all the main styles. It's not absolutely everything, but we've got guides to all the latest APA, Chicago, Vancouver, all the usual suspects. We also have guides as well on reference management programs as well, starting with, how do you choose a program, which one might be best for me, that sort of thing. And also detailed information about getting started with Zotero, Mendeley, LaTeX, and EndNote as well. So let's just have a quick look in the chat. So we've got a Zotero, 2 votes for Zotero. Yay, love Zotero. Zotero is awesome. If I can just do a quick plug.
What do you use, Ashley?
I use Zotero now. Yep, I have completely changed over, and the things I like about Zotero, the main thing is that the web scraper is really, really good. So the little plugin is really great at picking up if anytime you're looking at a database or whatever, you can click your little plugin and it'll say, okay, which ones do you want to save? And off you go, and it'll save PDFs if you want as well, straight from there. The other thing I like about it is that if you're working with a footnote style such as Chicago, instead of having to make a footnote and then put a reference in it, if you just use Zotero and add a reference, it'll make a footnote for you too, which might not sound like a lot, but when you're doing a lot of writing, it actually is a lot. You know, and sometimes that extra step, you know, of having to make your own footnote is just a step too far. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Zotero. It's also open source as well. So, you know, you can, and you'll be able to just keep on using it for as long as you want. And there's lots of support around. But look, a lot of people use EndNote too. EndNote's a very sophisticated program. If you need to write, you know, a modified version of a style, you can do that from scratch in EndNote. I have done this before. Probably wouldn't recommend it because it's a lot of work, but you can do it. And yeah, Mendeley is really great, with a lot of people liking it for its collaboration aspect as well. And if you're a little bit more technical, a lot of people like LaTeX as well if you want to have a lot of control over how things are going to appear. So yeah, there's just different purposes for all of these. So do go and check out the information that we have, and also through our research consultation service, you can also get help on reference management as well. So, you know, if you want advice on citations or, you know, how to cite something slightly non-standard. One time somebody did ask me how you cite a deck of cards that's actually being used as an educational and artistic object. That was kind of an interesting one. So yeah, we can try and help you with that sort of thing. And we can also help you troubleshoot if you're having problems with Zotero, Mendeley, EndNote, etc. So yeah, that's another really useful thing to know as well. Okay, and Jennifer, visualize your thesis.
Oh yes, so I don't know if anybody came to the wonderful Visualize Your Thesis Awards event last week. We had a viewing party from 3 o'clock where all 36 of our amazing 2020 entries were showcased, and then we were able to, you know, roll the drums and announce the winners. And the winners were Rose Macaulay, a PhD student from the School of Ecosystem and Forest Sciences, and she scored a $1,000 prize, which was great. And then second prize was Marja Devenska from Department of Surgery, MDHS faculty, Medicine, Dentistry and Health Sciences, and she got $500 prize. And Matthew Coleman, also from the Melbourne Medical School, he came third and got $250 prize. So Rose is going to now represent the university in the International Visualize Your Thesis competition, pictures of the 3 students that you see there, they were last year's winners. Unfortunately, we couldn't meet our people in person this year, but Carmen in the middle, who won our competition last year, went on to the international competition and came third in that competition as well. So
fantastic.
Yeah, it's a great, like, if you've got some time and you want to celebrate awesome graduate research, go to that link. I think Ashley may have even put it into the chat as well. Did. Great. There's the gallery is up, and you can check out all of the entries. They were just amazing. We had a viewer's choice as well, and Neha Singh from Educational Psych in the Melbourne Graduate School of Education, she won the viewer's choice. So a lot of fun. So if you're around at the university in the next couple of years and you're thinking of and you're doing a graduate research degree, you might want to come into that into our competition. It's like you learn absolutely fantastic research communication skills. So, you know, imagine being able to synthesize your research in 1 minute in a video. Learning your skills, it's just, you know, transferable skills that will, you know, set you up really well. Yeah, anyway, so I really recommend that competition to you. And I think our last slide is just to recap on all our points, our contact points. So there's live chat, which I actually find really great if I want to ask a question anonymously, or, you know, like you can actually, there's two, there's Ask a Librarian or Ask Student IT, and there are links in this PowerPoint to those two, or from the library homepage. There's the research consultations for that bespoke advice. And then there's another page that lists all of the different groups. So if you wanted to speak to people in archives about a particular archival question, or if you wanted to speak to the people in rare books or rare prints, the reading room, there are links to those particular groups as well. So I guess it's been a bit of a run through, but it's great that you've asked questions along the way. But are there any other burning questions that people have that we can help you with?
Yeah, thank you so much for a great presentation of some incredible insights into some of the stuff that I guess doesn't seem like a generic library support. I guess if you just, you know, the average, you know, person like myself, just understanding what you guys do. And I think it's really important to showcase that there's so many elements to the library service at the University of Melbourne. So if there's any more questions, please put them through the Q&As, and we'll get them answered as soon as possible. Otherwise, there's all those fantastic links and resources that have been in the chat, but we will be distributing the slides. And also this session is recorded, so we will be putting this up on our website and be able to promote the link out to our students. And if you do have colleagues or anybody you know that definitely is looking for library support, please share the link that we'll be sending out, because the more students understand that there are definitely some amazing resources at the university, I think it sort of helps the students get through this tough time as it is. So Ashley and Jennifer, do you have anything else to add to the presentation?
We're probably just as keen as you are to get back on campus. Yeah, really looking forward to that. But yeah, yeah, we're here to help. So don't hesitate to reach out. I was talking to my husband, and he was a graduate of Melbourne Uni, and he told me he was frightened of the librarians. We're going back some time, and he remembered he once asked, he thought it was an embarrassing question, and he was always nervous about that. So I said, it's not like that anymore. You don't have to. People are very out there and happy to help. So.
And we don't tell people to shush.
No. I'll tell you a funny story. I was actually with some people walking through the library, and we were talking, and we got shushed by the students.
Yeah. I've been shushed by students before too, when I've been a bit too energetic in a
well, they're owning their space, aren't they? They're owning their space.
Yeah.
There are the quiet parts, and then there's
yeah, amazing. Yeah, well, look, a lot of thank yous coming through on the Q&A, and no, we love to work in partnership with the university, especially with scholarly services to
yes, Helen, we can be loud. Yes.
As per usual, Wednesdays will be dedicated to academic support, and we'll definitely have our friends from scholarly services back to be able to showcase more of what's on offer and provide that guidance for the students. Tomorrow we are showcasing support for students in general. So we normally use health and well-being as a topic on Thursday. So that's 12:30 to 1:30 Thursdays. And Tuesdays is always linked to transition to work. So we invite the university and a lot of our partners to come and talk about the market and some helpful tips to sort of landing that job. So again, Ashley, Jennifer, really appreciate your time today. It's been fantastic. I've absolutely learned a lot. I think I was just gobsmacked about how much there was just in this short period. So I really appreciate the time, and I'm sure the students have too, as you can see from the messages coming through. So yeah, if you'd like to say goodbye, that'd be fantastic. If not, we'll definitely catch you another time.
Yeah, happy to come back and chat to people anytime, and just get in touch with us. And yeah, we're really happy, if anybody wants to ask us anything. Like I said, I love hard questions.
I'll have to ask you, what was the answer for referencing that deck of cards?
I think because it was in Chicago, that was what they had to use, and I think we worked out that it was actually an artistic object. So it was we went with, I think, a work of art, and I can't remember the whole thing, but yeah, it was based on sort of working out as you would an artwork.
Oh, wow.
But an artwork that you viewed live, not a published, you know, image of an artwork, if you know what I mean. So it, yeah.
I'm glad you got that question. Fantastic. Well, again, thank you so much for your time, guys. Enjoy the rest of the day. And if the sun is still slightly shut, so if you have time for that quick duck out around the block, please do so. If not, we'll see you next time. Good afternoon and goodbye.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.